Hi, this is Lance Wallnau. Welcome to the Lance Wallnau Show. Today, I'm going to take you behind the scenes to someone that I've observed for over a decade, working in the most unique ministry as a chaplain, as a pastor, as a coach, as a support for the couples that go to Washington, especially those that are open to spiritual ministry, to faith ministry, the young Christians, the weak Christians, and the unchristian that go into D.C. This is a couple that befriend Congress and minister to them. Their home is right there, and they open it up to do special events to reach out to and minister to the spouses, the wives of congressmen under the pressure they're under the warfare they're under, the battle in their marriage. Imagine the satanic activity in D.C. Well, this is a couple that literally stands there as a pastoral intercessory covering to minister to them. And they have opportunities for you to work with them, meet them. If you care about government, want to know how to serve in government, not quite sure what to do, you're going to love meeting Kimberly, Genau, and their beautiful ministry, the Alabaster House. That's what it's called, the Alabaster House. And while you're doing that, I'm aware of the fact that we're on our way to this wonderful dream trip. I am so excited about the curriculum because the Lord's been downloading to me how he's going to be showing us how to reach into the future and bring it into the present. And it's as though the Lord said, don't be distracted by the breaking up of economies. Don't be distracted by the distress of the election season. Your face has already been put into the future. Keep your eye on the assignment I've given you, and you'll see yourself through the chaos. I want to teach you the art of leading from an emerging future. Powerful concept. And you can do that at lancewallnut.com/dream trip. If you couldn't make it because we're sold out, the hotel rooms are all sold out. This is it. But you can get a link to watch these sessions. And it's Lance Wallnau, WALLNAU.com/dream trip. Go there right now. Don't delay, because within a matter of a week or so, we're going to be in a whole different place. And if you missed a couple of the sessions, you'll be able to still get a copy of it to go see it. We'll make sure you do. LanceWallnau.com/dream trip. Let's get into this really cool Washington, D.C. ministry team right now. Welcome to the Lance Wallnau Show. And you know, one of my favorite parts of being in the business I'm in is I get to interview all kinds of people. Some of them actually are working behind the scenes. And I want to bring them out from back in the, shall we say, in the shadows out to the forefront. And there's no area that is more delicate than when you are an advisor, a consultant, a spiritual covering, a confidant of political or business or Hollywood leadership. Because for some reason, the devil loves to take that information and manipulate it because it's such a powerful role. But I have a guest today whose expertise for 25 years has been in working as a confidant to leaders in Washington as a Christian ambassador. And so, Kimberly, Genau, thank you for being with me today. It's amazing to be here with you, Lance, after so many years. I know. Thank you for what you're doing. I met you in my various exploits in Washington. Right. And many of which, you know, here's the thing, you don't do photo ops with stuff. If you're meeting with, you know, Billy Graham made that mistake. He went out in the front lawn after meeting with Truman and knelt down for a picture. And Truman was furious. And it was the last time he ever talked about what he did in Washington.
100%.
Because that's, and now the problem is, you're funded by faith. So here's the conundrum. How do you do significant work behind the scenes that nobody knows about? Well, that's a little bit of a challenge. Unless you're George Mueller praying in your orphanage funds every day, you need someone to help you out. So I was talking to Kimberly. I said, you've got another gala coming up, and you've got congressmen and their wives and various people. Our tribe of concerned patriot Americans that are on the front lines of saving America, we really resonate with people like this. And it's lonely up there. You're in Washington, D.C. You think with all the prayer, billions of dollars of interest we're all sending to this political causes and elections, there's very little funding for the spiritual resources of the kingdom of God and what's going on. Give us what your work is.
Absolutely. So we serve as a spiritual resource to government leaders and their families. And our three main points are confidential prayer, biblical devotions, and friendship. What our real work is often behind the scenes. So we have a number of different members of Congress, and they say to us, There's a great video actually on our website, and kind of a banter back and forth between a congressman and his wife, Congressman Mike Boss and his wife Tracy. And she says, when we walk in that door, I can just be Mike's wife. And Mike jumps in and he says, no, you're Tracy. And she's like, oh, shut up.
Right,
So it's this great banter. But it's the fact that they can just be themselves as opposed to a title and what they do.
How do you meet these congressmen and their wives? So they're in Washington. Some of them are there for the first time. How does this connection happen? Is it just somebody knows somebody that says meet them, or what?
It's interesting because probably about, I don't know how many years ago it was, but I had been working with a congressman and his wife for many years, and then they retired, and then a new member and spouse, of course, came to Washington. I went to an event, and there was a lot of Q&A afterwards, and there was a table that you could clearly tell that these were believers, the spouses of members of Congress, based on the questions they asked. So immediately I hit a beeline over to them to talk afterwards. And I said, I want to introduce myself. I'm Kimberly Genau, founder of Alabaster House. And immediately one of the spouses said, I'm supposed to meet you. And I went, great, here I am. So of course there is the referral from others that have been there for many years saying, when you get up there, come and find us. And so of course that happens, but a lot of it is just the community. You invite them to come to different events. We host retreats, chapels. We're 45 minutes from the Capitol. Last month we hosted a retreat for congressional spouses and wives, spouses of government leaders. So
on the average, how many spouses actually would show up?
Well, it depends on the year. This is
3, 4, 5?
No, we have a group of them that come. So we have multiple tables, and it also just depends on when you have it and what's happening in Congress. But we had several tables of spouses that came. We have a brunch typically out on the lawn. It was a little bit chilly this day, so we allowed them to go out afterwards and pray for them individually. But the topic that we're focusing on is really how do you balance the demands of Washington with your faith. So you want to interject faith really into everything you're doing.
I got to say this because I just read an article written by a secular journalist who said, if you really want to know, this is weird, Mitch McConnell's, inside track, or some of these politicians, they go to the wives. The wives influence the husbands. Now, I've known this for years intuitively. But it's called the meeting after the meeting. And so there's a meeting, right? And it's whatever that board meeting is. You want to know what the meeting is after the meeting. And that meeting in my business is called pillow talk. That's when the wife and the husband have their heads on the pillow. They're wrapping up the day. And what do you think happened? What do you think? That's the most candid, honest, trusting communication. And if you've got Pilot's wife on your side, she's going to be sending a note to congressman, senator, or governor, hey, my girls and I have been praying about this. Be careful what you do. And that's not coming through the staff. Right. That's coming through a whole different oikos in the Greek. And you're really working within the oikos of the biblical world, which is the family, the marriage, the church, the spiritual, and the friendship. And that's a whole system that we could put up alongside this other thing we call the swamp. And we can reach into the swamp and pull the fish out of the swamp. Everyone's not an enemy to us.
Right.
In fact, our attitude ought to be, we have no enemies. We just have people that don't love us. That's all.
Well, I want to say that, as you know, if you're going to talk to a female, she's going to really tell you the inside scoop. So back in 2015, we partnered with some of the key females to actually change the spiritual atmosphere in Washington. There was a lot of division, polarization, much like you find today. But we brought them together for what we designed called a Capitol Coffee. And we had different leaders within that group and spouses that their husbands were going up against one another. And I brought them there ahead of time to actually build some bridges. And so they ended up praying for one another. And I'm telling you that these were the ones that were going against one another. So as a result of stepping forward and saying, you know what, let's see what God can do in the context of friendship and relationship with one another. And he restores things.
We have to do this. It used to be, I'd have friends of mine that would complain about, these guys act like in public they're really enemies. And then in private, there they are at the bar, or they're friends, or they go on vacation together. I say, good. I mean that. Good. Because I'd rather have people that have personal rapport with each other,
Right.
that have ideological differences, than people that hate each other and have no continuity for communication. Jesus said that if someone's going to war with you and they have more troops than you, then go seek terms of peace. Or while you're on your way to the court, see if you can win over your adversaries. Two analogies Jesus gave to actual statesmanship.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there definitely are. Every day they face pressures, the adversaries, the media, the things that they get pummeled, with day after day. And so it is very important, a ministry like Alabaster House, we can come alongside and help foster those moments that they can invest in their marriages together. Washington, there's a lot of things for members. There may be things for the spouses, but we try to actually bring them together in the context of marriage to foster that in such a trying time.
I have to say one of my most meaningful experiences in Washington was with the wives.
Interesting.
And it was with Doug Coe and the Cedars Fellowship. And it was just being able to be in one of the condos with, some of the members there that were in the Senate. I mean, talking about senators, wives and such. And they'd have a prayer meeting. And at the prayer meeting would be, this is the FBI's wives, CIA. I mean, it was all State Department stuff. But the women would pray and the Spirit of God was there. And I said, man, if we got the women in the Spirit, I have a lot more confidence about what goes on with the men in the swamp because they're connected to their wives.
Well, that's what we want to share is there is hope in Washington. And if you want to pray with us about upcoming events and be invited to future events, we have an email update that you can sign up for on our website, alabasterhouse.org. And then, of course, help us by not only sponsoring, but if you want to donate or give to something
Listen,
you
donate,
didn't know about.
support. These are missionaries to Washington. They can't go out on TV and say, hey, I just prayed with Congressman so-and-so's wife. Their marriage is fixed, obviously. But you can support the doctor on the front lines. This is the kind of work I want. That's why I grabbed you yesterday. I said, let's get you out here.
Thank you
because
so much.
People need to know what you're doing, and it requires a certain kind of
diplomacy
message, right,
yeah.
to get it out. All right. So you're going to go to that website. You're going to go there. You're going to sign up. You're going to get the email. You're going to know what's going on. I'm making a commitment that I'm going to get more involved. I used to do this years ago. I understand my friend Chris Halverson's more involved over there up in Washington. I'm going to get more involved with it. I'm not backing up. I'm going in.
I love it.
All right.
We need you and the rest of you as well. God bless you.
Thanks for being with us.
You,
all right.
Lance.
We'll be right back.
Did you enjoy this latest episode? Please remember to share it with your friends, because the more knowledge you have, the better equipped you are to navigate the world.
If you're like me, you get frustrated when you see Target and these big shop stores that are pushing their woke agenda on your children. How do you fight back? Well, you got to reorganize. Public square is what you've got to do. I want you to give your business to people that share your values, share your faith, that are patriots, that are pushing back on these big woke corporations. Go to lancewallnau.com/public square or public SQ. Download the free app so that you can shop with people in your own area. Put the money in your community in the pockets of the friends that are sharing your values. And by the way, if you've got a business, you especially need to use this app because you can put your business on the app so that other people know who you are and they can do business with you. lancewallnau.com/